Hello, happy Friday. I hope everybody's doing great. Lately, we've been talking a lot about adaptive cards. So I wanted to kind of give you a simple introduction. I know when I first ran into adaptive cards, I kind of lost my mind and I came on and I gave you a video that kind of was just a go try it, please. Well, now I have some like step by steps I can show you. So I'm going to actually take the time today and show you two methods of doing adaptive cards. In the first method, you're just doing one, so you're just going to get one record from data somewhere. Now, this applies to any data source whatsoever. Today, I'm going to use MSN Weather. Also, as we work in Office 365 and Dynamics 365, it's rare that we just need one record. So how do we do multiple records so that we can actually query dynamically for data and pull it into our adaptive card? So in this particular case, I'm going to show you how we handle a fictitious scenario where at the end of every major catastrophe, like earthquakes and floods and things like this, there's often and so this is real, there's usually, if not always, an initiative to reconnect people with their pets. The pets were left behind, or they ran out of the house and they got lost, or they floated away in the flood, but they get found by the people who are staffing the rescue relief plan. And so they find these pets, they take a picture of them, and then they reconnect them to their owners. Now, in my demo that I did, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, I used face recognition cognitive services to match the photo that the owner gave to the photo that the rescue relief team took. But today we're not going to do any AI, but I do want to suggest give this a try with the new AI builder, because you don't even actually need face recognition anymore. If you can train your AI builder, you're good to go. I'll probably do a demo like that one day. It's just not my rush today. What I'm going to do today is assume that all the photos that have been taken have been uploaded to SharePoint, and somebody's responsible to go and tag these photos when the owners come and pick them up. And so basically I'm going to have a daily report of what pets are standing by still waiting for their reconnection with their loved ones. So we're going to do that scenario to show you how to collect multiple items into one adaptive card. Okay, so easy, a little bit harder, but you'll be able to do them both no matter what level you are. Okay, so let's get started. Let's go over to, where can I go? Let's go over to SharePoint and show you that I have a library called Pet Photos, and it's got a bunch of photos in it with an extra column added called Placed. And basically when the owner comes to pick up the pet, somebody says placed, right? This could be a flow button that even tags these photos as placed. You'd have to just find a way to use your buttons to indicate which photo has been placed, right? Okay, so our kitty is placed. You know what would be cool is if each cage had a little flick button on it, and then just by pressing the button that the owner picked them up, it knows which photo to do. That's totally feasible, like in minutes. So that would be kind of cool. Of course, these are all wonderfully adorable pets that are still waiting for their owners to come pick them up. We even have a little piglet here. He's not waiting anymore though, because according to his details, he has already been picked up, this little piglet. So he doesn't have to wait for his owners anymore, but he's so cute. I don't think I've ever seen such a cute pig. Anyway, let's go back to our flow environment. Well, first let's get our template for the pet. Well, for the weather. Let's start with the easy one. So I'm just going to do weather compact, and so that's the one that I was using. And click try it yourself. And there's not much I need to change here, and the reason is because I don't want this dummy data anyway. I want the real weather, right? So these placeholders will help me know what to do when I get to flow. So I think it's fine. If I wanted to move things around, I could. If I don't need an icon, I can remove it. I can add my own column over here, maybe with longitude or latitude, or maybe I want to put a text block right there. I can just drag that text box in there, and maybe what I'll put in that text block is the conditions. So you can change it and make it any way that you want. Yeah, I think that's fine. So this will just be the conditions, and I'll try to find the shortest possible conditions that would work there, or I can move it up here on the right of date, but I think you're good. So you play around in here until you're happy with the way it looks. Pay attention to the containers. Sometimes you'll need them, and the different controls that you can add. For now, remember that we don't have forms working yet, and so the only button control you can really use is open URL. You could use show card and toggle. Maybe I'll show you that on another day, but you cannot use submit yet. I'm just going to say yet right there and leave it alone. Okay, so let me take this JSON down here and copy it, and I'm going to bring it into Visual Studio Code. Now, if any of you just like, they had like a pain in their chest when I said Visual Studio, I am not trying to do any code here. The only reason I'm bringing it into Visual Studio Code is so I can look at it. It's just easier for me to look at. I've increased my font size here, and I've set it to group itself like JSON. So it's just easier for me to read it, especially because I'm not a developer, right? So I study the JSON to see what's going on. And you can tell by this that basically this is just text placeholders, right? So I'm going to need to replace the city and the state with my own. I'm going to need to replace the date with today. I'm going to need to replace here conditions. Here I might just put the high or the low. Depends on whether they have like a now or something. And then I have a high and a low here. Okay, so not a lot of work. Okay, but let me go set it up to get me what I need. All right, so we're going to go back to flow. Where is flow? Back here. And then I'm just going to make a new one. And I'm going to make this a button because, well, actually, I'm going to make this a schedule because I want it to happen every morning. So I'm just going to schedule this for every day. 10 a.m. is fine. That's great. Okay, get weather, I'm going to call it. Okay, and then create. And so I've got my schedule all set. Now I'm going to add MSN weather. I don't think I have any other weather in here. There might be others, but this is the one I used to use in Power Apps. So I can say get current weather or get forecast for today. Or I can use both, because like that top number, I might want to use get current weather, whereas the other stuff, I might want to use get forecast for today. Let's get forecast. I think it gives us more. And then what we're going to do for location is get the location of where we are now. And so let's see, what's the best way to do that? Let's add an action. And let's do Office 365 users. Oops, sorry. Office 365 users. All right, and then in here, I'm going to get my profile. So this is basically not going to tell me literally where I am standing, but it is good enough to get the forecast for the person that's running this schedule. And this is actually something I'm just doing for myself. You could do it for your team though, in which case you might want to use a button so that whoever launches it, it can pick up the location of whoever triggered the flow. And in this case, since I'm triggering, I'm just going to go by my location. And where am I in the world? I am in that city. So it needs a city or a zip code or longitude or latitude, something like that. Okay, so now I have what this needs. We're good. Next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and figure out where my card is. So I can do post adaptive card, and I'm going to post it to myself. And so since I have the Office 365 users, I can just post it to me using my email. And then the message is going to be the JSON that we collected. And then I'm going to replace these things, right? So where am I? I can delete Seattle, Washington, and replace that with going down to my profile, city. Look up there and check that it went in. And then right after city, I'm going to put a comma. And then I'm going to go back down there again and get state. So now I have city-state. So it's dynamic, right? Basically, if I were to let someone else run this, it would run on the profile of the person who's running the flow. All right, now I'm going to put the date. Let's configure that as well. So I'm going to add an action. I'm going to get date time. Current time. And I want to convert the time zone, which is why I just want to make sure we got the right time zone. So I'm going to do date time again. Another thing I like about converting the time zone, that even if it's the right time zone, I love the fact that I get a format button. So you'll see it in a second. So I'm in UTC there, and now I'm going to take Pacific, and then my format, I get these nice little prefixes on the format, you know, like it gives me everything I need to know. And that's the format I want on my date. And so within my card, I'm going to use the convert time zone right there. So I'm going to delete this. Go down here and do convert time zone. Did I pass it? There it is. Okay, so now we have those two. Now the next thing we need is this temperature, as that's the big one, and then the high and the low. So let me do the high and the low first, because I think we don't have the current temperature in here, but we'll get it. So I'm going to do the high and the low. So there's my high, and there's my low. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to do, I might save right here, is I'm going to go ahead and get the weather right now. So I can do here MSN, or I could pick the high or the low, you know what I mean? But I'm going to go ahead and get current weather and pass in the same location, which is the city, and then that's fine. And now it should be that this current weather will be where the temperature is right now. So I will delete that, look for current weather, and there's the current temperature. And where'd it go? Where'd it go? Okay, yep, there it is. And the other thing I wanted to do was add conditions. And so I can add conditions from either of these two. I think this one is the shortest. And you can always find this out by running it. So I'll take that one. And I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and test this. So you're basically getting the materials that you want, wherever the data might be. And then you're plugging it into your adaptive card, like zip, zip, zip. Okay, so it's going to run. It's not going to make me feel bad because it's going to run beautifully. And then I'm going to go here and you can see what's happening here. Now, I happen to be in a test environment right now. And Megan, who is the test user that I'm using, she's in Pittsburgh. So don't think I'm in Pittsburgh because I'm not. And so there's the current temperature. Wow, it's kind of warm there, isn't it? And the high and the low. All right, so easy peasy. But what do you do in the case of the pets? where you have multiple items. Let's do that together. So I'm going to do back to my flows. I'm going to do a new one. Let's do it scheduled as well because we want this every morning at 6 a.m. And so there we go. We're going to do this once a day as well. And this is get the waiting pets. So get waiting pets. Whoever's hanging out and hasn't got their owner yet. So this is all filled out for me beautifully. I don't have to do anything to the reoccurrence. So I'm going to hit new step. And then here I'm going to, let's see, what do we need to do? We need to query SharePoint. So let's go ahead and do, we need to make a GET request to SharePoint to find out what's going on over there. So we're going to go to SharePoint and we're going to get files properties only. And this is because we don't need the file content. We can't put the actual picture in Teams. What we're going to use is the thumbnail, which is a property. So it's actually faster to use properties only if you don't need the content itself. All right, so I'm going to choose my site. And then I'm going to choose my library. And then I'm going to do an OData query. Why? Because I don't want all the pets. I only want the pets that have not been adopted. And so they're not placed, right? So I'm going to go back to my library so I can remind myself what that column is called. I believe it's just placed. But here we go. All right, so pet photos. And then there should be a column. Let me change this back to list. Yeah, it's placed. So I don't want the piggy because he's already connected. We don't need to worry about piggy anymore. I only want the ones that haven't been placed, all right? So I'm going to use placed equals EQ, put the two quotes, and then I want pending, I believe, right? So got to remember what you do. That's probably important. No, it's yes, no. So I want no. Okay, so we'll do no. The big thing I want to remind you when it comes to filter queries is if the data is nested, those complex fields like created by, they're represented in OData as author. And then if you want the author's email, then you have to do author /email, right? You can't do dot, you can't do bracket. Just remember that when it comes to nesting OData queries. That's basically all I need. This is going to give me what I want. Now we're going to go get this ready. So the first thing I'm going to go do is in Designer, I'm going to go get my template. So we're done with this one. So let's go get the template for image gallery, which is, hey, good enough, right? I'm going to click try it yourself. And then once it opens, I'm going to change this stuff up here, right? So I'm going to say animals pending owner connection. I don't know what we want to say here. You think of something cool. And then down here is maybe it just says, and you can type over here too if you select it. You can just say something like adopted pets not shown. Okay, and basically that's all I really need to do here. If I wanted to, you know, do something else, I could click on this image set right here. Let's show you the card structure here. So there's an I'll do it in order. There's an adaptive card, that's the outward container. Within that, there's a text block here, a text block here, an image set right here. See, you can see it highlighting. And then if you click on one of these images, there's some images, right? And of course, I can use my little delete key to delete any of these images, or I can click the X, either any way I want to get rid of anything. But it doesn't, these images don't matter to me because that's not what I'm going to use. I'm going to use my own images. So I might just take this down to 2 or 3 just to make it less to worry about. And then as soon as our payload loads, I'm going to copy that JSON. Or, you know what I do? I think I can do it here. So I'm going to copy card JSON, and then I'm going to go to Visual Studio. And again, we're going to paste that in. Now what this does, again, it helps me study the card and kind of find out how does this work. Okay, so these images repeat. So this is the array that I want, right? And arrays start by an open bracket and end by a closed bracket. So this area right here, which is this right here, is the array that I need to make from SharePoint. Because we don't want these pictures, we want it to iterate through the pictures on SharePoint, right? So basically what I'm going to do here is just replace this array with a different array, and then life will be great, right? So, and I'm just trying to think, yeah, I think that's correct. So I'm just going to, what I can do here is nothing here. I'm going to go into my flow, and I'm going to create a variable for the actual card. So this is what the card's going to end up needing as its JSON, and I'm just going to call this var card text or string, whatever you want to call it. This is going to be a string, and you need it to be a string, not an array or anything else. And then you can paste in there what you just copied, right? So this is the card string. We'll just call it that for now, okay? We would think more sometimes. But then this array right here, I don't need in here at all. I'm going to cut it out with the brackets and type the word replace. It's just a placeholder for me. Okay, now I'm going to go up here, and between this one, I'm going to add a select. We all love select for all the reasons that we have learned, because it takes in arrays and it kicks out arrays. So in here, I'm going to change this to text, and I'm going to paste what I cut. Only I don't need the whole thing. I just need one of these, because that's what's going to repeat, right? I don't need to repeat the whole thing. So we're just going to go here. I'm going to get rid of that last comma. We can leave that moved over. You know, I think that's fine. So this is what's going to repeat for every record in SharePoint. And the image is fine. Let's make it a little bigger. Let's make it a large image. And I'm not going to use the photo. I'm going to use the photo thumbnail. So I'm going to delete this, whatever they had. And I'm going to go find the photo thumbnail, the large one. Okay? Now, we have that. We can go back to where we typed replace. And instead of replace, we're going to delete that and put the select action here. Now, one thing I did notice, which I'm not sure why it's happening. Let's just scroll over and see if this is my imagination. Select sometimes doesn't show up over here. And I think it's just got to do with the, you know, the width or the length or the height of this whole bunch of stuff. So what I will do to get it back in my dynamic tags is I will just type, I will just put it in a temporary compose. Because at this point it's static. After the select, it's static, so that's fine. So I'm going to go in there and I'm just going to click in here and I'm going to choose that output. Notice that it does show after I did that. So I'm not 100% sure why it's not showing out of the box, but that's an easy way to get around that issue if it happens to you. And now we can basically, we're going to run a test on this. So we're going to save it and we're going to test it. Now, why am I testing it? I want to make sure that my JSON comes out accurate. And this is another reason why I use Visual Studio Code, because I'm not an expert at JSON. I can read it. I think everybody should learn how. But I need to make sure that this JSON doesn't break. And so I'm going to check it for accuracy just by copying the value out of our final card string and then going back to Visual Studio and pasting that in. And if I don't see any red squigglies, we are good. All right. Now, if I saw a red squiggly here or something because something is missing, then I know you didn't get all of the block you needed to iterate, right? Or you missed a comma or you missed a bracket or something went wrong. So you're going to have to kind of troubleshoot your way back. All right. But everything looks fine. So I'm going to add my last action here. which is the post a card action, right? In this case, I'm going to post it to the channel. So I'm going to do post an adaptive card channel. And you can see that's that one there. And then again, I'm going to select my team. This time I'm going to select the pet found report, or actually this is probably a bad name. It should be the lost pets report. And then I'm going to put that resulting variable there. Okay, let's test this. And I'm going to force it to run, even though I said every morning at 6 a.m. We don't have the kind of time to wait for 6 a.m. for this demo. So I'm going to force that to run. We're going to wait and make sure it runs. There's always a potential of failure here. But we took the time to double check our JSON beforehand. So we should feel pretty confident at this point, and it ran fine. And then we're going to go back to here, and we went to a channel this time. So we're going to find that channel, and there you see it. This is the one that we just did. Okay, this is one I did yesterday. Now, notice that the images are small here and they're large here. What happened? I forgot to change one thing. So if you go here and you'll notice, and again, this is part of studying, you know, kind of what all is going on with adaptive cards, and I'm going to show you that too. The image set had an image size of medium. Okay, so by doing large here, that will make the image set larger so that the images who are already large will look larger. Okay, now I'm going to show you one more thing right after I test this change. And then we'll be done for the week, and we can start our weekends. Those of you that have already started your weekend, stop laughing. Okay, so here we go. It's good, that worked. Let's go to Teams and see if we have a difference there. And we sure enough do. See how much bigger they are than the one we did before? So it does matter what the container settings are as well, okay? Now, let me give you a last tip, and then I'm heading off to my weekend too. Go to the documentation page in adaptivecards.io and read through card schema. And this page is your golden, this is how I learned. I studied this schema. It explains to you what the different card elements are, what the containers are, right? Because for instance, if you're doing columns, you need a column set. If you're doing images, you need an image set. And it explains everything really well. The biggest kind of thing I wanted to show you that I ran into is that don't assume that things work like they used to work. And what I mean by that is some of us are very comfortable in HTML or in markup language. This is not what's going on here. Like, look here, you see the colors, right? If I go down on this page, and you look at how colors work, right? You do not type red. You do not use any kind of HTML hex tags or RGB or any of that. You know why? These are adaptive cards, which means they need to adapt to whatever they land on. So we don't want to hard code colors. We don't want to hard code background colors. And so they give us these color options that will work in every case, so that we don't make a mistake and mess up our adaptive card so nobody can see what's written there. Like if we set the color to black and then somebody in Teams change their Teams to dark, guess what? They ain't gonna see that text. So kind of get familiar with the documentation, and I bet you'll be able to do a lot of things. And to let you know, I am heavily investing into this for Teams because I see so many awesome scenarios for this. I mean, my mind just every day I start journaling a list of things that we can do with Teams adaptive cards. It's like a whole new app scenario with just Flow and Teams working together, of course. So enjoy this. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Enjoy the journey.